I'm muted. That's a good start. Hi, Mac. Hi, Gulam. Hi, Zifa. Thank you for joining on time. We'll give people another couple of moments to join, and then we will start. Okay, I think we'll kick off. As I've just put in the chat, please do feel free to ask questions in the chat. We might pick them up and answer them as we go, or if not, we will catch up at the end in the Q&A session. So we will get to your questions at some point during the webinar. Also, please do note the session is being recorded. So I hope that's okay with everybody. So with that, thank you for taking the time out to join us to talk about email security solutions. We're going to talk about what's going on in terms of security generally and email security in particular, how these threats are evolving. And if you hadn't guessed from the title, the bad guys are using AI, but we're going to talk a little bit about how they're doing that, some foundational concepts of AI, and a very interesting demonstration of how the bad guys are using AI, but how security providers are also using AI to combat that malicious use of AI, which is going to be really interesting. And of course, we will wrap up with a Q&A at the end as well. But please do ask questions as we go, because if they're relevant to what's being said, I will interrupt and jump in and answer them. Here's a few numbers to get us started on what is going on with security. 90% of the most serious cyber incidents start with an email. An email typically isn't what's doing the real damage, but it's how they get into your environment. They will capture someone's credentials, or they will get some reconnaissance malware into your environment to start to gather data. So preventing that initial foot over the threshold into your estate is a crucial element of your security now. It used to be most attacks started at the web with somebody downloading something they really shouldn't have. People have gotten a little bit smarter in that regards. Antivirus solutions have gotten better. Email is absolutely the preferred route in now. And because we are bombarded with so many emails, it is very easy for people to miss these malicious ones. Whereas on the web, it required more conscious action. So I think this is why they're having much greater success with that approach. So let's put a bit of thought in the scale of this problem. Think about the number of emails that you as an individual receive in a week. 1 in 72 emails is a phishing attack. So for me, I get about 200, 250 emails a day. So I'm looking at 20 malicious emails a week just to me. And now think about that in the scale of your organization. This is a lot of emails. And if your email security solution lets through 10% or even 5%, that's a lot of malicious emails reaching users. About a third of those phishing emails get opened. And personally, I'm of the opinion that I think that's about a third of all emails get opened, to be honest. But that now sets a bit of a scope on this threat. How many emails that are malicious are reaching our users, and we are now trusting their diligence, common sense, and good judgment to avoid the start of a cyber incident. If you've done any phishing simulation with your employees, you probably know that a lot of them are not the most discriminating in this regard. So it's really important that we minimize the number of opportunities for them to make these mistakes. If you're wondering, IT salespeople, very vulnerable to vendors sending them free beer. That one works particularly well. A lot of people click on that one. And this last number, I'm going to talk about a little bit more because it's maybe a little bit more controversial. IBM estimate the cost of business email compromise is about $5 million. Now, I think the obvious thought in response to that is it depends on the company. If you're a sole trader turning over £100,000 a year, obviously it's not going to cost you $5 million, but it could easily incur a cost that ends your business. And I think that's the more important message here. This is very serious stakes. Almost half of charities that suffer a major cyber incident do not recover and are gone within 12 months. And that happens to about a dozen charities a year in the UK, just to give you an idea. It is very easy for a medium-sized enterprise, for example, if they are unable to trade for 2 weeks and all of their fixed costs still need to be paid, but no corresponding sales are coming in, to put themselves into a financial back foot situation that is exceedingly hard for them to recover from. It doesn't take a lot to tip the scales of your profits and loss into the red in a way that is very difficult for you to recover from. Preventing these situations from happening is vital for the vast majority of organizations because they cannot tolerate the loss in income, the loss in reputational damage, or the direct cost of the incident, and continue operating in many circumstances. Or they're setting themselves up for hardship and difficulties for many years to come. It is absolutely vital. But presumably, the bad actors here are also making a substantial investment in their attack, you would think. So here's one last number. $120 is the cost to buy an AI phishing service. So this is a service that will generate AI phishing emails for you. It will send them out to your list of email addresses that you want to attack. It will have a plausible email for that user with a document for them to try and open. And when they try and open that Office document, if they will, as I'm sure you've all experienced from time to time, when you try and open an Office document, they will be asked to re-enter their Office 365 credentials. But the place they will have been taken to is a fake Office 365 login site. At that point, their credentials are passed to Microsoft in the background, so they are actually logging in. If there's multi-factor authentication enabled, and there very much should be, then they will be asked to authenticate, which they most likely will because they believe they are actually logging in. And at that point, they will be authenticated with Microsoft and the login will happen. The fake portal will grab their session cookies and hand these off to the customer. And they can then use those credentials to log in for as long as that session cookie is valid. That is a fairly comprehensive service for a very reasonable amount of money in terms of the attacker's perspective. It costs them very little to attack you. But the damage to you of allowing these attacks to succeed is huge. And this is why this is such a serious business at the moment. But let's talk about, sorry, I was getting slightly ahead of myself. His idea of the scale. This is an excerpt from a report on the state of security in the UK that I send out every month. I do use checkpoint tools to generate it, which is why the bars are checkpoint pink. So this is attacks, real attacks recorded in the UK. The real number is almost certainly higher, but this is a number based on what has actually been observed and reported. Education and government are always at the top of the list in the UK, and they're generally at the top of the list worldwide. For most countries, they're in the top 3. But the impact to education in the UK is abnormally high. For the global average, education is normally about 50% more than government, but in the UK, it's 4 times larger. I've yet to find a good explanation of why education in the UK is so hard hit. Could education in the UK do security a little bit better? I think probably yes, but That isn't unique to the UK or to education in general. Is it because there is deep pockets for education in the UK? I don't think especially. Is it because there is particularly valuable research in the UK? I think definitely yes. We punch above our weight in terms of the quantity and quality of valuable research we do. But the same could be said for South Korea, for example, and we don't see that same trend there. But certainly education in the UK in particular is very hard hit. Now, to be clear about what these numbers mean, these are not the total number of attacks. This is the 6-month average attacks per organisation per week. So if you are a healthcare organisation in the UK, you can expect around 1,300 attacks per week on you. These are substantial numbers. And the UK is not abnormally high yet, other than in education. These are fairly standard numbers globally. And we can see why, when the cost of doing these attacks is so minimal. When it costs so little to attack, why would you not continuously launch attacks on everybody in sight? And that is what happens. Some attacks are very targeted and specific, some are very scattershot. But no matter what type of organization you are, you will be attacked on a very regular basis, whether you are seeing this and getting the reporting on it from your security products or whether they are happening invisible to you. They are absolutely happening. And the Harry and Harry from Checkpoint are going to show you a very interesting solution for looking at the email side of this. And I would recommend talking to them, or to XMA, about a proof of concept of Checkpoint Harmony email, because it will let you get a real number for the attacks that are happening on your organization. Because, of course, it's very difficult to quantify the level of threat that you're facing if, by definition, the bulk of that threat, the most important part of that threat, is the part your current tools are missing and therefore not able to report on. So it's a very interesting health check to the state of your current email security posture. But not to be all doom and gloom. Good security tools bring a variety of additional benefits beyond simply keeping the bad actors out. A good security tool will improve your operational efficiency. Bad ones will certainly negatively impact it. So I'm sure we've all had the experience of legitimate customer emails being quarantined because they have been falsely identified as threats, which results in lost business, customer dissatisfaction, reputational damage. Good security tools not only eliminate that negative, but by giving your users confidence in the emails they're receiving, allows work to happen faster, less head scratching of is this a legitimate email or is it not? And that confidence and trust within your organization is just as important as the confidence and trust your customers or the public you serve have in you. If you are having security incidents, even if they are small and contained and are only visible internally, that shakes the trust of your employees in you as an organization, which can have massive damage to an organization over time. As well as, of course, the more obvious reputational damage of when you have a massive public cyber incident. So there are lots of benefits to having a good security product. Not only do you keep yourself out of the news, but it builds confidence in your own internal staff that you are a good company who are doing things well, and therefore a good place to work and to commit to. And crucially, good security products will work with and alongside your existing products and technologies. If a security product has excellent effectiveness rates but requires you to tear out your existing infrastructure and rebuild it, that is not necessarily a good trade-off. You want to use those existing investments. You want to continue to use them, especially in the current climate. People will be looking to sweat their existing investments and assets even longer than usual. So security products that enhance the things you already have and support you in extending the life of your products as well are all massive benefits. So if you're evaluating security products, and I would say you should always be evaluating security products and looking for places to improve, once you've established that they do their job and protect you, then do also consider these additional benefits they can bring. Will they help you maintain your reputation as someone who does business well and effectively with both your customers and your staff? Will they make you better and more efficient and more effective? And will they support you using those things you've already invested in and let you sweat those assets if you need to sweat them and continue to operate them in a way that works for you rather than forcing you to change to accommodate themselves? These are all key additional benefits that you should be considering. So with that, I will hand over to Harry from Checkpoint, who's going to talk a bit about exactly how email threats are evolving.
Thank you very much, Scott. Next slide, please.
There we go.
Thank you. So attacks have very much changed over the years. And if you take a malicious actor, they're looking to compromise or impersonate users or partners of organizations. That's their way in for a business email compromise attack. And once they get a user or a hook, then essentially the process can even repeat itself. Once they compromise someone, they can then target someone else's users and partners that they might deal with. They can send ransomware, they can create fake invoices, or even say, hey, we've changed our bank details, can you pay this bank account instead? Or even just when an account is compromised, hold data to ransom. There's a lot of bad things that people can do, and this is what we're looking to protect against. And next slide, please. Thank you very much. And really, over the years, attacks have gone from quite basic, hi, give me your phone number, essentially taking things off email in order to, while impersonating someone else. The one on the left, I think someone's pretending to be the CEO. Fake CEO calls and say, I need you to transfer X number of vouchers, whatever it might be, for something urgent, and then money's lost. Things evolved, purchasing things like similar domains and then pretending to be that brand by saying, I need you to do something for me, whatever it might be, or send me some information, and just trust that people will press reply and not check the actual sending address. So things got complicated at that point. And then even now, it's using legitimate tools like QuickBooks, which is a payment system, or even legitimate marketing tools, really impersonating not just the brand, but the branding, taking the logo, the colors, etc., getting people and calling people to some kind of action to do something. Threats have really evolved over the years. And next slide, please. If we take Microsoft or Amazon as an example. So Microsoft is, for most of the year, the most impersonated brand, but actually around the holiday seasons, that switches to Amazon, because people are naturally buying gifts for other people on Amazon. It's an easy option. I did it for my wife's birthday, which was just yesterday. If only things would have arrived on time, I wouldn't have been in trouble. But that's by the by. So on the left-hand side, we've got an example of an Amazon email. So it's using not just your brand, but trusted brands, maybe to you, to other people, to your family, using trusted brands, impersonating them in order to get people clicking. Because once people click and they enter the credentials, that's what people want. And that's what people pay good money for, unfortunately, on the dark web.
And just to add to that, because I know that everyone in our audience are LinkedIn users, LinkedIn is now up there in the top 10, right next to Apple for most fish brands. So do keep an eye out for LinkedIn emails. LinkedIn don't send you emails very often.
Thank you very much. Didn't know that, actually. And as well, it's not just phishing emails like standard. It's also what's within the phishing emails that might take people elsewhere. It might be some kind of Google Drive link, of which 3% of phishing emails do contain. 35% of phishing emails are on some type of WordPress website. WordPress is a very easy tool to make websites with, and as well, 98% of them these days now contain a crypto wallet address. So if an AI tool can just look for phishing emails or just look for a crypto wallet address, that's going to be a fair chunk of emails stopped. I don't know of many legitimate businesses that take Bitcoin, for example, as a payment source. I know pizza companies used to do it way back when. I don't think they do it these days. But that's just a bit of a summary on phishing and how it's evolved over the years. I'll pass over to the other Harry at this point to talk about the foundations of AI.
Thanks, Harry. I guess, yeah, a brief run through of AI, the foundations of it, and ultimately how Checkpoint differs. I'm sure you guys are all sick and tired of everything being AI focused. I think in this day and age, I think even your toothbrush contains elements of AI. So we're not going to go down a rabbit hole. We're just going to keep things nice and simple. And then ultimately, on the back end of this segment, we'll actually start to show you how it can be used in a good and a bad manner. But Scott, next slide, please.
Harry jokes, but you can get a toothbrush that analyzes your brushing patterns and reports on this to you.
I got one last week that does that, so I can confirm that's true.
So yeah, AI is everywhere, and in the most part, AI is a fantastic tool that can enable businesses, end users in lots of different ways. But I think the three critical components to AI are on the screen. It's data, it's people, and it's architecture. So we're going to spend a little bit of time just walking you through, I guess, each pillar and how Checkpoint differs within each pillar. Next slide, please, Scott. So when it comes to AI, I think the most important thing is the actual data that the AI and machine learning engines are learning from. And with Checkpoint, we have the single biggest threat intelligence data lake on the planet, powering our AI engines and protecting our customers across over 200,000 connected networks. We are going to spend a little bit of time talking specifically around Threat Cloud, but ultimately, I'm sure you guys are aware that Checkpoint is an enormous company. We've got a wide-ranging set of products within a portfolio that's underpinned by a single Infinity platform, and we're taking threat intelligence from every single aspect of our platform, powering individual elements like email. So if you are not using our full service, yet we see a threat on a firewall in a different country to where you guys are based, you are still going to be benefiting from the threat intelligence that we're pulling from that threat, and we'll be applying that to other parts of our portfolio. But we'll talk a little bit more about Threat Cloud in just a second. When we actually look at the people behind the platform, Checkpoint have been around for over 30 years. We know what we're doing. We're very well versed when it comes to protecting businesses against the ever-changing threat landscape in a variety of different ways across a variety of different products. But behind the scenes, we've got a small army of threat researchers and analysts that are constantly stress testing the algorithms that we're building and the protection that we're providing through our AI engines. They're working with other security vendors. They're working with law enforcement and certs. They're not only using our own threat intelligence that we're building through Threat Cloud, they're also pulling in open source and dark web intelligence as well to ensure that the protection we're providing today is able to adapt to the threat landscape of tomorrow and is constantly learning and constantly evolving and changing over time and is as powerful as it can possibly be. And I guess that's partly due to the architecture that everything is built on. I've touched briefly on how everything is interconnected and how our wider portfolio of products talks to one another via Threat Cloud. And we're leveraging some leading edge technology that's built into our platform to keep our customers safe. Next slide, please, Scott. And just a little bit around Threat Cloud itself. There's some examples there of other elements of the Checkpoint platform and portfolio outside of just email that is feeding that Threat Cloud behind the scenes, the big brain as such that powers everything that we do. We're seeing threats across a wide-ranging set of technologies. We're seeing threats in a multitude of different languages. We've got customers in all four corners of the globe, and we're sharing this information across a community. So like I said earlier, what we see on a firewall in Italy will benefit email security customers in the UK. Outside of this, of course, we're learning individually around each organization that we're protecting. From an email point of view, we're going to be building behavior baselines and things like that. And Harry can start to showcase how that looks when we move into the portal. But I think this is really crucial when you compare us against other vendors within the email security space. Point solutions that just focus on email, that are just building their threat intelligence up based on email-borne threats. Yes, that's an important part of the puzzle. At the same time, they don't have the breadth and the visibility of the wider threat landscape, which obviously we do as part of that Checkpoint portfolio. Next slide, please, Scott. And how do we apply some of this protection and security when we focus back onto what's causing the most amount of issues across the email security threat landscape? Both Harry and Scott have spoken around business email compromise. It's everywhere. All you've got to do is read a report, read the Verizon data breach report, read the Microsoft Digital Defense report. It's everywhere. It's causing the most amount of pain when you focus on sort of the email segmentations of those reports. So how can we use what we're doing? How can we leverage Threat Cloud to protect organizations against that type of threat? Well, we've got over 50 AI machine learning engines running in the background. We're providing protection consistently across over 90 different languages by using natural language processing. This is unrivaled when you look at the other competitors across the email space. We're building social graphing and communication patterns around each individual user and the relationships they have with the people they communicate with within your own organization. So we're able to build behavior baselines to understand what's normal and what's not. So when things deviate from the norm, it elevates the level of risk, which helps us understand whether that is a normal email or whether it is somebody that's compromised the other end. We can also build out a view of what your supply chain, what your customer base, what your trusted contact list looks like from a partner risk perspective. We can enable you to be proactive when it comes to understanding if any of your key contacts are or have been compromised, but they're not directly impacting you, or that's not directly impacting you right now. And we combine all of this with the more traditional methods of protection in the likes of URL and QR code rewriting and threat emulation and sandboxing. AI is one thing, but these types of emails are coupled with an invoice or they're coupled with a link, and it's vital that we're protecting those elements as well, whilst elevating the protection when it comes to the social aspects of that email at the same time. And it's not just email that we're able to provide this protection against. We're able to extend elements of this protection into the likes of Teams, Slack, OneDrive, Google, etc. Because we are very aware that threats, in the most part, start with an email, but can quite easily spread into the wider collaboration applications. And at the same time, we are starting to see more threats start in Teams, which then can obviously spread into your email environment. Everything is interlinked, and it's vital that you've got protection across the entire stack of applications that you're using.
And of course, users sometimes just do things that aren't very sensible. I did find when running a proof of concept at a university, one of the IT lecturers had a collection of live ransomware in his OneDrive folder, which he was using on one of his courses, and he would just link students to it. What could go wrong? So we fixed that for him, but you will find all sorts of odd things that users are doing that aren't necessarily malicious, but they're not a very good idea. So covering those other aspects is very important as well.
Absolutely. And look, just to sort of summarize and finish on some statistics around the impact that Threat Cloud is having. In 2024, Threat Cloud itself prevented over 4 billion threats. It's scanning nearly 4 billion websites and files on a daily basis. We're looking at over 150 million full email sort of content on a daily basis. 86 million file emulations are taking place. 20 million IoT devices are being seen. 2 million malicious indicators are being checked. The list goes on. This is such a powerful tool that can protect you in one of the most vulnerable areas of your business that Scott's already highlighted. And I guess the next segment is very much showcasing how, one, we're utilizing our technology to protect you from the most sophisticated threats, but actually how hackers and attackers are using AI to craft these threats in the first place. And I'm going to hand you back to the other Harry to walk you through those elements.
So while Harry is getting his demo environment ready, I'm going to go on a very slight rant about AI in general. Large language models, of course, are very much in the public awareness at the moment. They're great at some things, especially generating plausible nonsense. They're fantastic at that. They're not so great at other things, like providing reliable, predictable determinations, or reliably providing factual information. The security industry is one of the most mature AI use cases, and I think the method and architecture that the AI industry has adopted is what we're all going to see in AI productivity tools, and that is many very small AI models that do very specific functions. So within Checkpoint Harmony Email, for example, there are dozens of AI models that do specific jobs linked by logic. So for example, there's one that says, does this email claim a brand identity? If so, go to this one. Does it have a logo? And if so, is that the right logo for the brand? Is it being used correctly? Can we validate that the domain the email has come from is connected to this brand? And by having many tiny models, they become much easier to test. And then we can have the technology that is most appropriate and reliable for that function. And I think that's where we're going to see AI productivity tools coming. You'll have one tool that does a summary, and one tool that grabs factual information, and one tool that generates references, and a tool that then changes the language into a particular style that you want, and so on. And you'll link these together to make a workflow that can be easily troubleshooted, and which can be predictable and reliable. So I think that's where we're going to get to in the next couple of years. But the security industry is already way ahead of us. So sorry, slight rant there. Harry, over to you.
Thanks, Scott. No, it's a good interjection. So I'm going to show you on ChatGPT how easy it is to create a fake phishing email. I should say I've had to tell ChatGPT that I'm a cybersecurity professional delivering a phishing awareness webinar. Otherwise, it won't do it. So there is some kind of or morals and ethics that is naturally built into at least ChatGPT. Not all AI systems have that, but that's where you get tools on the dark web. So I'm telling it to make me a fake phishing email, to put it in an HTML format. I should say I did get ChatGPT earlier today to write out this exact prompt for me, because I asked it to make one for me so that for demo purposes, and it took a little bit of tweaking here and there. So I said, just generate me the perfect one for a webinar, and I can copy and paste it. So that's what I've done. Hopefully it's going to work, but let's see what it gives us. And then on the page on the left-hand side, I'm actually going to take this HTML that it's generating for me now, already done. So copy that, and I'm going to paste it into this notepad file, which is this landing page in the background. Save that, and now I'm going to refresh the page, and look at that. So we've got the HMRC logo, security alert, suspicious activity detected. That's a scary thing to see from HMRC. And then to get people, what they want is to get people to click on this site and enter in personal details. On to the next tab. So the next tab is essentially that site. So I have, this is what that is at the moment. This is file, which is that coming soon page. I've got my second prompt. Again, I got ChatGPT to make it earlier today, so I've copied, and I'm pasting that now into the same ChatGPT window. And again, it's creating for me the HTML of that website, already done. So let's copy that, paste it in here, save it, move that over there, refresh this page, and we now have a fake login page with HMRC branding, where people can enter in personal details. Now, appreciate I made this combination of about 5 minutes in total. That's 5 minutes worth of work. Imagine 5 hours worth of work. It's going to look a lot more realistic than that, and that's already will trick probably a small amount of people anyway. So imagine that, but with more effort, more time, on scale. I know no one in this group's going to fall for anything like this, but there are always, unfortunately, people that do fall for this sort of thing.
Some of the bad actors actually prefer that it's not as realistic as possible in order so they can pre-select for only the most gullible people.
Which is both good and bad, I suppose. But that brings us nicely on to the actual Checkpoint Harmony email and collaboration platform. And then we can show you and tell you how we can stop this sort of threat from coming in. So this is the main landing page, the main overview page of Checkpoint email and collaboration. Just to put some context in as well, everything Checkpoint lives in the same login page. So you don't need to log into multiple portals to get to multiple different Checkpoint products, because we do have a lot. Email and collaboration is just a standard part of the same Checkpoint login, or Checkpoint Infinity as it's called. So I'm going to show you an example phishing email on my test account. There's no confidential information on my test account. It's all dummy data. But I'll show you some examples of a phishing email, how we analyze it. I'll show you some of how it's configured from a policy perspective, and then finally I'll go into some of the reports. You'll probably have my voice for about 15 or so minutes, and then we'll take some questions at the end. By all means, any questions throughout, put them in the chat, and I'm sure either Harry or Scott will stop me if they would like. In fact, I encourage it. So you're on mute, Scott, but I can see your mouth.
Yeah. Or we'll just answer in the chat. So either way, please do ask any questions as we go.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. And Scott as well, feel free to interject yourself. But let's click on this one. This is an email that was sent to Jen Barber. If any of you have ever seen the TV show The IT Crowd before, you might recognize that name, Jen Barber, from someone called Ed Dillinger. Now, we can see this email has been quarantined by Checkpoint. Microsoft said it was clean and would have delivered it to the inbox. We have said it's phishing, and so it's quarantined. Now, I just want to point out at this stage that seeing Microsoft's verdict in the platform, this platform, makes us unique in the email security space, because this is something that is patented to us. It's called Unified Quarantine, and it's definitely our USP, that not just being able to see Microsoft's verdict, but if Microsoft has quarantined it, we actually have the ability to search it, action it, release it, etc. from our portal. No one else in the industry is able to do this because we've got it patented, and from an everyday perspective as an admin, it makes life so much easier, because rather than going into both Microsoft to troubleshoot and your email security vendor, you only need to go into one platform, us, to be able to view both. So from an admin perspective, it saves so much time and effort. But that's by the by.
It also solves a security and privacy issue. The Microsoft Exchange dashboard does not audit people reading the contents of someone's mail, which can create a variety of liability situations or HR situations, stalking, and so on. That is absolutely audited here. And because you can do all those administrative actions that you need on Exchange Online from the Checkpoint portal, you can remove those admins' access to the Microsoft portal, and now all that behavior is auditable and also controllable. You can choose which of them have that permission. You don't need to be able to read someone's email to do day-to-day administration here. So it solves a real problem that some customers are having.
And even better, in our platform, you can set it so an admin can only view email content when threats are found. So they don't necessarily need that permission for everyone. It's only when it might be needed to analyze a threat. But we'll come on to that at the bottom of the screen. But for now, we can see it's been quarantined by Checkpoint. We can see it's a phishing attack. We can see email analysis indicates a possible credentials harvesting attack. There's a QR code even as well. We're at the highest confidence level that there is a phishing email. And from a reputation perspective, there really isn't one. DLP is fine. Click time protection, so that's our equivalent of Microsoft Safe Links, where we're replacing URLs. So we can see what the original links were, what they've been replaced by. So every single time a user clicks on any URL, we're making sure that they are scanned and safe before the user is actually able to proceed onto the site. If a user does click, we've also got the logs of that. We have an enforcement flow chart which comes with every single email, so we know it's not been delivered to the inbox because we can see it's been quarantined here. If one system said to junk it, to add a banner, etc., we would also see that in the enforcement flow chart. Scrolling down, we can see we are extremely confident that this is a phishing email. We've got this threshold set to medium, so anything past this dot will be picked up as phishing. Same with this dot and spam, but this isn't the spam email. You can change this, so this can be set from lowest, low, medium, high, and highest, depending on what suits your organization. The relationship strength is all quite low, so we know this isn't necessarily a trusted sender. We can see the email body because I've got the right permissions to do so, and this is saying that it will be logged and audited. You have got the option to don't show this message again. If I did that, then my demonstrations wouldn't be as good, so I will never tick that. Press OK, and we'll even highlight the specific parts, or at least we should do once it appears. I do love live demonstrations. Everything goes really slowly. It should highlight the specific parts as to why we think it's most fishy. I'll come back to that maybe on another example. But yes, there we go. So access your Dropboxed files. It's not really Dropbox, it's dropped box. And then giving someone a bit of pressure that they have to click on something. That's the key bit in which they're encouraging people to click. So text analysis is the main reason that this one was picked up as phishing. Also the sender info. We can see the links. We can hover over, well, not just, we can click on the preview button, and it's a fake Microsoft login. You'll notice that the login page looks quite similar to this one, the same sort of outline, same sort of style of sign in. That's because this one was also made on ChatGPT. So ChatGPT has a particular style of login page. We've also got the QR code that I mentioned earlier. So QR codes, if they're in the email body, we will rewrite them to be a safe QR code. So just like how whenever a URL is clicked on, we scan them to make sure they're safe. This means that every single time a QR code is scanned, again, we're making sure it's safe before the user proceeds. We decode them. We give you the ability to preview them, just like they're a URL, so fake Dropboxed. In the same way of URLs. We can also see all emails with this sender, or at least the last 20. So we can see that they are actually sending quite a lot of emails to our organization. Thankfully, no one sent any emails back to them. So without needing to go into the Mail Explorer and search, has anyone replied to this person, we can see it on the same page where we've analyzed the email. And in fact, everything I've shown you so far to do with this email has all been on one page. If you were to do the same sort of, if you wanted to get the same information from Microsoft or from really any other vendor, you'll need to go to different bits of various platforms to be able to compile all of this information. With us, it's all easily displayed on one page. So that is an example email. Just to show you next how it's all configured from a policy perspective, and then after that I'll go into some of the reporting briefly. But from a policy perspective, if you were to go ahead and trial this with us, which we will absolutely encourage, and XMA are happy to help there, by default, what gets created is a policy in a detect-only mode applied to all users and groups. So what that means for you is we're not going to be impacting mail flow whatsoever during a trial. It's just detecting for all users and groups, and we will show you what we would have done. So again, I'm going to really emphasize this: no impact to business emails by doing this, and it's really simple to deploy. As and when you might go into production, or if you wanted to try this for a set group of users, you can then change or create another policy for prevent mode. You can select specific users if you wanted to try it for a few specific users. So let's do Jen Barber, Maurice Moss, and Douglas Renham from the IT crowd. And then it's simply, what do you want us to do when we see a phishing email? And I would say best practice is quarantine user is not alerted, but an admin can restore. But there are, of course, different options. And if you did want different users to have different options, then you would just create them another policy and give them exactly what they're after. But I'd say best practice quarantine. If you did want maybe suspected phishing emails to have an email warning banner at the top, then you can customize a special banner for that. And you can have a link in that banner to say, yep, I do trust it. And they can click on that link. You can customize the text, you can customize the colors. Or if you don't want to have a banner, that's fine. You can send it to junk, you can quarantine it, whatever you want to do. Same options with malware and suspected malware. Again, I would recommend best practice quarantine users not alerted, but an admin can restore, or even they can request a restore for an admin to approve. Password protected attachments. Again, another banner where we will try and decrypt the file ourselves using what I will call basic passwords, like the word password. We'll look in the message body for the password as well. If we can't decrypt it using those methods, then we will deliver the email as normal, but without the encrypted attachment with this banner instead. Again, banner is completely customizable. User clicks on a link, they see the file, enter the password for the file, and then once we know that it is the right password, scan it, sandbox it, make sure it's safe, and then deliver the encrypted file as normal for the user. Now, the best thing about this option, it is completely self-service. So from an IT management perspective, you don't need to be checking manually, is this encrypted zip file or whatever it might be safe? Self-service, everything is sandboxed before it gets delivered. And as well, same with all attachments, they all get sandboxed by us before they get delivered. And then next, spam. What do you want us to do if we see spam? Deliver it to junk, add spam to the subject, quarantine it, and give users the ability to restore it themselves or not. I would normally suggest either send to junk or give them the ability to restore themselves. Grey mail, that's where it might be something not quite spammy, and as well not quite clean. It's maybe a marketing type email. Maybe it's an email from XMA saying, hey, come and join our amazing webinar with Checkpoint, that sort of thing. That'd be considered grey mail. That can be sent to a promotions folder that we can create in 365 for you. We can do it the same as a spam workflow, so whatever you've selected up here, or we can add promotional to the subject, whatever option suits you best. And then finally, what do you want us to do if we see a clean email? We can deliver it with smart banners. I'll come on to that in just a second, or we can just deliver them as normal. Smart banners, they are banners that if the email, I'm going to emphasize, is clean, but we think there is something worth noting to your end user. For example, a request to update some payment details, or there's an invoice or a PO, or it's a first time sender even. We can have a custom banner at the top. You can customize the text and color just to warn your user, hey, this is something worth noting. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. There might be, but at least this way you are giving users a reason to be cautious. That's the policy side. I'll spend a few minutes on the reporting, and then hopefully we'll have some questions. But from an analytics perspective, or someone's been on my test account already this morning.
Sorry, just quickly before Harry jumps into reports. So you probably noticed there are categories there for suspected malware and suspected phishing. These are very rarely used. Harmony email is really good at making confident determinations. The only time I've ever seen suspected malware was on some scripts for running on servers that could have been naughty if they were run by the wrong person. And suspected phishing is generally things that are probably legitimate but are just weird. And they are a tiny fraction. If you're an organization with, say, 1,000 users, you will probably see one suspected phishing a week, maybe. You generally get a definitive determination. We are pretty sure, like 90% plus sure this is bad. It's very rare you get the, we're not really knowing, we'd like you to look at it, please. So you may well go from looking at 100 emails a day to looking at one. That is the real world difference.
I would say, actually, to that point, the time I've seen it the most is during trials, where maybe we're still learning your environment and AI it needs to build things up on the back end. So during trials, you might see it a little bit more, but again, we're talking quite minute numbers. Back to the portal. Thanks for that, Scott. You can ask AI as well to create graphs for you that might be relevant that you need for various reports, and it can do that for you. Some examples that other people have done on my test account for you, but we can show you the different detections by type. So phishing is 96% of what we're detecting, grey mail 2%. In reality, that would probably be the other way around. Grey mail and spam would be the highest. Just my test account, we don't get the most amount of grey mail or spam because it's a test account. We can also show you who your top active users are and departments. So some really interesting information there, and you can always click in and see not just phishing emails, but we'll also include grey mail and spam. And essentially, it's our way of saying this is how many emails better off this user would be because of us. I'll just show you 3 more pages for now: partner risk, shadow IT, and then the security checkup, and then I'll hand back over. So partner risk, this is a really interesting section where we can show you different organizations that we can see you interacting with based on the email traffic. So let's take DHL as an example. We can see they've been impersonated to other organizations. Now, it would say if they've been impersonated to you here, which it hasn't, or it would say if they've sent you a phishing email, again, which they haven't. Same with this one, phishing email sent to other organizations from hotmail.co.th. So that is a really handy tool when it comes to being able to see who else you're dealing with and what kind of risks those brands might be associated with them. Shadow IT, let's expand that to the last 12 months, but this is where we can show you different applications being used based on email traffic. So if, for example, someone's using Dropbox, which might not be a company-approved application, we can essentially give you a list of Dropbox users from this page here, if that's what you'd like for us to do. And you can approve apps as well from this page. And then the last page for now is the security checkup page. Now, this is where you can generate yourself a report. You can do it in specific time frames for specific groups, or you can automate them. But the idea of this security checkup report is it gives you a summary of what's going on in your organization over a specific time. This might be something that you need to present internally to show the value of Checkpoint, not just Checkpoint, but we can even include what Microsoft is stopping in here as well. So the idea is that just this gives you a snapshot of how you're doing over a certain period of time, and gives you what I'd normally recommend is spare about 5 minutes a week to just go through this document. And if there's anything that you think might need further investigation, it's a good way in. But that's pretty much it from me. I think at this point, I can see the question's been answered in the chat, but were there any other questions, comments, anything at all that we can answer in the next few minutes while we're here?
I think just one thing to add whilst people maybe are thinking of questions is we've spoken a lot around business email compromise and I guess trusted senders or contacts sending emails into your organization. Another aspect to our platform is actually enabling you to be more proactive if any of your users have been compromised. And we're embedded within Microsoft, so we're taking a vast number of different data points into the equation. But again, we're building those behavior baselines. So if we see a deviation from the norm, if we see users logging in from different places, if impossible travel becomes apparent, if different rules are being created in the back end, or we see an increase in the rate of emails being sent, as some examples, we can actually provide some protection from your own users being compromised by removing them from their Outlook session, forcing password resets, blocking outbound email, all automatically. Alternatively, we can alert you that we think somebody's been compromised within your organization, and you can run those tasks as you see fit. But I think that's just another element that I guess ties into what we're doing and how we're helping other organizations, that I guess is business email compromise, but your own internal users, not the people you're communicating with.
So I'll answer this one live. Mac has said, is there a possibility to trial it? Absolutely there is. And the good news is it's really, really straightforward. The largest part of the trial is the bit where you pretend that you read the big list of permissions that it needs, and then say you accept. The short answer is we need somebody who is an Office 365 admin to pretend that they read that all and put their credentials in. It will deploy by default into a mode that is invisible to your users, where it will tell you what it would have done if it was fully turned on. But you can trial everything fully turned on if you want. You can also trial all of the integrations. So if you also want to have it look at your Gmail and your Slack and your OneDrive, that's all possible as well. It takes about 30 minutes to stand up, and then we sort of usually give it a day or two to learn some history from your environment, and then we start to look at what it's finding. So usually it's like 3 calls over 2 weeks, and we produce a nice report for you with what it found at the end. You have full access during the trial as well. Unlike some vendors, this is not, this is our thing and you don't get to see it. We'll just show you some curated results. you get full access to the tools to dig around and see what you find. And I usually find after the first review chat that customers are coming back to me with, look what I found. Why didn't Microsoft spot this? It's stupid. And it's usually a lot of fun. There's always something interesting we find. So yes, please reach out to us or reach out to the chaps at Checkpoint. We can deploy this for you very quickly and very low effort. The only change you might make to your environment, if you want to test to also scan outbound, mostly because you want to do DLP, there is one change needed to your SPF record. But if you're not doing that, you don't need to change anything at all. So yes, if you want to trial it, absolutely reach out. Any more for any more? And thank you for all the comments. You know, very nice to see those positive feedback. Thank you all very much.
Thanks very much, everyone.
I see Max typing a question, typing something. And Max says thank you. Thank you, Mac. Thank all of you for coming. Thank you for giving us your time. Please do reach out if you'd like to hear more or give it a try. We can stand it up for you at very short notice. Just let us know. So have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.